Councilmember McFerren.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0 and the public hearing is open. Would you like to ask Nate to
And
give us?
he would be able to answer the specific questions about the loan too, if you have some more.
Probably more than likely, Nate will, if you have questions, Nate can probably talk about a resolution right now. It's just taking comment from the public regarding, but
Sure.
if you have a specific question that Nate could answer at this point, or we could save it until we get to the.
Sure, we could save it till the resolution. That's a good point. Thank you. Any members of the public who would like to comment on this loan agreement? Any comments on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
No, I don't believe we received any written comments either.
Does Councilmember received any written comments or questions? Okay, hearing no comments, then I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing?
Second.
It's moved and seconded to close the public hearing on this loan agreement. Again, this is a roll call vote. Councilmember Schiltz,
Yes.
Councilmember Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilmember McFerren.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
The public hearing is closed on a 4-0 vote. We'll move to the following item, which is the resolution itself, 2023-0117-03, which is the proposal to actually enter into the essential purpose loan agreement for Rainbow and Maxon Street Improvement Project not to exceed $2.6 million. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve this resolution. Let's move into discussion. It would be great if Nate could just kind of give us a.
Nate, can you give us a kind of an update on this, please?
It's like he's still muted.
I'm sending a message.
There you go.
Hi, Nate.
Hi, folks.
Oh,
Can you hear me all right?
Dan. Can you hear us?
I can. Everything, I couldn't hear anything for about the last 45 seconds or so.
Just wondered if you would kind of give an update regarding the financing and where we're at. I know that you and Lee have, she sent you some information and I have some additional information to send to you tomorrow. So, but if you just want to talk a bit about the
Sure.
agreement.
Yep. So, process wise, I understand the city has a bid in hand for the project, and I'm working with the city and with V&K to just round up all the associated engineering and project costs so that we can come to kind of a final tally on what we need for a project fund. At that point, we'll rerun some of the numbers surrounding the anticipated bond and have a resizing available for you at your next meeting. Tonight, I believe the proceedings in front of you from Dorsey and Whitney essentially give the city the authority to go out and issue the bonds. At your next meeting in February, I believe the timeline is to have the city approve a preliminary official statement, and that document is basically works like a prospectus for investors in the bonds. At that point, we'll kind of pretty much finalize everything as far as the repayment schedule of the bonds and things of that nature. And at that point, pretty much the only thing left to fill in is the interest rates. And so then we'll go out and sell the bonds thereafter. And I believe we're planning on closing in early April. At that point, you'd get a wire of the funds into the city's bank account.
I know we saw some paperwork on this earlier, but I don't recall the numbers. What kind of an interest rate would we expect to get on something like this, roughly?
Yeah, right now, roughly I haven't gotten an update from my desk. But just thinking about how the structure that we're anticipating using, wrapping the new debt around the city's existing debt, we're looking at kind of a deferred repayment with a lot of the principal coming in the back portion of the repayment schedule, the 20-year repayment schedule. We're probably looking at an interest rate somewhere in the 3.75 to 4% ballpark. And again, that's kind of subject to change, and markets are fluctuating daily. So we've got a little ways to go before we're able to kind of get that finalized, but that's ballpark kind of where we're at right now.
Okay, that's helpful. What questions does council have for?
I thought the interest rate would be lower than that. No? Okay, okay.
No, since we started this discussion, Nate, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they've went up 2 base points
Yeah,
since we originally started
okay.
talking on, funding the project.
The good news is though, that our total for this project is looking like it's probably going to be significantly less than the 2.6.
Yeah, based on kind of numbers, and that's part of what I've got to get with Nate, based on some stuff that I got from Leo today, which I need to share with Nate, and then looking at the other piece on the electrical side. I think we're gonna be like 2.3 or a little bit less, so there should be some savings there.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do have
Yes.
something to add to this.
Please.
Just so you know, the contract that's been awarded, if they start in March, which is the earliest they'll start, typically it's the end of March before we even get a pay estimate. Then we get that pay estimate to you, it'll be April or May, no matter what, before you see a pay estimate, but you'd have to pay for the contract. And April and May is optimistic. May or June might be, and then they'll start coming rapidly.
Okay, that's good to, keep that timeline in mind too, of the payout. Okay, thank you, Mr. Summers.
Thank you, folks.
Is there any other discussion we need to have about this? Right, we have a motion and a second on this resolution to enter into a loan agreement. This is a roll call vote. I'm gonna start over here with you, Councilmember Smith,
Yes,
Councilmember McFerren,
yes,
Councilmember Dominguez,
yes.
Councilmember Schiltz.
Yes.
The motion carries, the resolution passes, I should say, 4-0. We'll move on to item 5, beer and liquor license. Palenque Bar requests to renew liquor license effective December 10th, 2022. It's I'm hoping we know how to time travel on this one.
It's 2022.
Right,
Their original license was to expire 12/10 of 2022. They were in the pending grams shop section. It hasn't now been approved. Now
Oh,
it just needs to be approved by council.
gotcha. Let's discuss further if we need to after we have a motion and a second. Is there a motion to approve this liquor license?
Yes.
All right, Councilmember Smith moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion about this from council?
Yeah, I'd like to find out if we've had any issues. I don't know if Chief, okay,
So I looked up, same thing we did with, was looked up the same sort of time frame of the last year, and I think it was since 2021. We've had, besides just regular checks, we've had 10 calls at Palenque. 3 of them were disturbance or loud music, 2 of them were initiative, 1 was threats, 1 was a fight in progress. 1, I'd have to look up, it came in as a hit and run, but at El Palenque. So I don't know if that meant it happened outside and that's how they identified it, but that's what I'm guessing. And then another disturbance, which usually means it's something like a fight or a verbal disagreement, and then 1 actual assault. Additionally, I checked in with my officers that work the overnight shift, and they have both heard people tell them when they're doing the bar checks that there's been some service to underage. Also gotten that complaint from the community. So I would say that checking with them the way we did with Farmers probably would be suggestible. I don't know what the time frame is would be. With this starting last month, but that would be my suggestion. And check in with them and see what we can do to alleviate some of this moving forward.
Can I clarify what you said? You said 10 calls. Was that in a 1 year period?
2 years,
2 years?
2021 and 2022.
2 years. Yep. What would council like to do here? It does seem like the process that we went through with Flamas seemed to be effective in bringing them to the table and having a conversation about things and building the relationship and also maybe resolving some of the issues that they were having. Should we do that again?
I think that's a good idea, but have the owners been talked to about the complaints about the underage? Or the minors being served at all, do you know?
When the officers try to talk to somebody about it, they're met with a lot of resistance.
Mm.
Yeah, I think a conversation.
And if I could add, I think what made the meeting with Plymouth go well was that we had a council member. So it wasn't just the police department going in there like it was like I'm raiding them or like yelling at them, but it was good to have the council member in there and helping with the discussion and letting them know we're trying to make sure your business is successful, but also make sure that it's good for the community, that sort of thing. So that, like I said, that would be my suggestion. I'm happy to go on that if that's
Okay.
if that's fine.
Is there a council member who'd like to accompany Chief Werling to talk with them or just reach out after the meeting if you don't want to say right now, but
Not it.
I can come back with you again, I guess.
I mean, I would be available, so as long as I.
You can have.
We could have two, but no more.
That would be.
right, that's right. The two of you would be great.
Yeah.
Too, yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, please.
So the difference with this situation is that they've already passed their effective date. And, the process would be is that they would be, allowed to have a temporary. Whether you're not gonna approve them or you're gonna approve them, they're gonna have to be like an extension or continue to allow to be the service. So the thing is that if you decide to table it to have that discussion, then we just have to do the additional work with the ABD to let them know. And then find out what has to be done, or because they wouldn't be able to serve it all. It would impact their, and that would be the police department would have to manage.
We would have to issue a letter on behalf of the city stating that it's okay, because what happens is there's a little bit of a leeway from the time that the liquor license comes due. To when people, because DRAM sometimes is a little bit behind, sometimes it takes a little bit for those insurance companies to come through and actually provide that documentation to the ABD, which then in turn sends it to us. Once that gap is kind of closed there and it's been submitted to local authority, if you guys are gonna want to do some form of review and it's already past that deadline, that 12/10 deadline, we're gonna need to issue some form that says, while we're working through this, you are able to serve, give them a 30-day grace period or whatever it may be, so that I can update the ABD and kind of let them know, because it sits out there on the ABD saying that we haven't approved it or denied it. It just kind of sits out there on the website, and then they will follow up with me if we don't say anything.
Is that a lot of work?
Good question.
We've done it before. I mean, we've had places where the DRAM shop was pending for 45 days. That's typically the maximum. Sometimes they'll extend to 60, but most of the time they won't. But we've had to deliver letters saying that, hey, during this 30-day period, you're okay to continue to sell until we find a resolution on behalf of the city. It's something that can be done.
So we just wanted to make sure that we were transparent and communicating, those steps.
Sure.
So that way, if you drive by and you're like, why are, they didn't approve that, why are they open, or why is that? So that way you clearly understand those processes.
So they basically receive a temporary permit, you might say, to continue serving is how you would recommend, and
We
then
would call it an extension.
an extension, okay.
Mhm.
And then pending the review of and a conversation with them, the council could make a final decision, which would then either, what would be
And then
a,
we go through the process of based on your decision.
Yeah. okay, that sounds acceptable, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, I do want to mention that I just took another look at the name on the application. And I just want to be transparent as well and let everybody know that the individual under the legal entity was and I don't want any conflict of interest, but was an individual that was employed by my husband's shop. And I don't want that to come off as a conflict of interest.
So I'll call for an extension if you want to abstain from the vote.
But it also in attendance, I don't know, if I
Oh, I
were to
see.
go
To
as a
visit.
council person, I don't know if that would be a conflict as well. I don't know. If I can make myself available, I will go with Josh.
Okay.
If it makes you more comfortable, Cara. It's up to you. I just don't want it to come back and haunt us.
Yeah.
If the situation turns out differently, I don't want there to be an accusation of retaliation or anything
Yeah,
like that.
That's reasonable, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Sounds good.
your decision's gonna be a council as a whole, so that protects you, but I think, again, these are situations where we would say save face and we wanna, come forward and provide, so we don't muddy the waters, so, yeah.
These are important things, and I think it's good that the council is making clear that it won't be a rubber stamp. So, is there any further discussion on this needed? All right, so if you want to hold off on this, then help me understand the right protocol here, Dave, but I think we would want to vote down the motion to approve.
Do we need a motion for extension or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
They're gonna
so,
have to, I would prefer because.
Yeah.
it's
That
a
gives you
direct-
I think,
task.
yeah, I think you would vote this down at this point, then you would have a motion to provide the. If you think you can meet with them in the next 30 days, you would give them that 30-day extension, or if you. I don't know, Shari, do
And
you
I
need to
would-
go
I
further than that,
I would say by the next meeting would probably be more beneficial.
which is
the
in 3 weeks,
circumstances.
so I think if you gave them 30 days, we would certainly have something hopefully done in time for the next meeting, but you got 3 weeks between them, so.
okay, that sounds good. So
You're gonna vote down.
we would vote down, you would vote down this current motion by voting no, or abstaining if you wish. And then I'll call for a second motion, which would be to extend them a 30-day extension of their current operating license.
And give the city time to have a meeting with them.
Is it a consent vote? It's a consent.
This is a consent vote, so there's a motion and a second to approve the request. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
Any abstentions say abstain. The motion is denied 4-0. I would ask for a motion to extend Palenque Bar a 30-day extension of their operating license and give the city time to have a conversation with them.
All motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion about that one? If not, go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
I'm available to.
Okay.
So, no,
Great.
make it happen.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All abstain, say abstain.
Abstain.
The motion carries 3-0 with 1 abstention. From Councilmember McFerren. Okay, are we good there on that one? Okay, great. Item number 6, vendor voucher claims. We have vendor voucher claims list in the amount of $596,856.86. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the vendor voucher claims list. Is there any discussion?
See, you took out the line item in the last.
Yes,
they try and get us with that domain directory.
And it's simply, it slides through because we've had a transition of staff members, so.
Yeah, it's actually a solicitation to pay for domain listing, which it's unnecessary to do that. Because that is already something that is provided through our internet or our website provider. So,
Correct. Something that showed up on the first version of this and then was subsequently removed. To answer any questions about that. Okay, any other questions or anything to discussion about the vendor voucher claims? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The vendor voucher claims is confirmed. 4-0. We'll move to public comments and or correspondence. Are there members of the public with comments? Anybody on Zoom? City council,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, nobody's motion to speak. So.
okay, great, thank you. City council members, have you heard anything you want to share?
not really. I had a couple of comments made. One was rather redundant, but valid. Somebody is interested in wanting to know when we're gonna have a dog park.
Okay,
The other comment is on wanting to make sure the city keeps tabs on the right-of-way signs, all the signage that's in the right-of-way.
We'll make sure.
Is
I'll make sure
not-
that he's aware of that.
not legal or whatever, not possible. And then I did have somebody at the chamber event who was asking about an explanation for the high electric bills this summer. And so I referred them to you and Lee, and so I can give you their contact information if you'd like, and you can reach out to them.
We would appreciate if you could share that with us.
Okay, I will do that. Yep.
thank you.
And that's all I have.
City manager Hoagland.
I provided you with the information that our building inspector, Terry Geertz, you had requested that he take a look at the
Yeah,
occupancy load at Llamas.
did everybody get that sheet?
Terry met with the son of one of the owners yesterday. And that calculation, they look at the square footage of the different parts of the facility. They look at the exits that are available, and they also look at the number of facilities that they have in the restroom. As you look at that, I was a little shocked at first, because as you look at just the square footage and you look at the number of exits, based on those calculations, they could have a occupancy load of I think it was 1,001 individuals.
1001.
But when you look at the calculation of the number of restroom facilities that they have in the facility, that drops that down to an occupancy load of 501. And Terry provided that. He's providing them with the cards that they can get posted, showing the occupancy limit for their facility as well. So
How many bathrooms do they have?
it states on the back, the number of it's based on the number of fixtures in those restrooms.
Oh, got it, because I was like, I remember.
Terry
them having
kind of-
one.
Terry kind of explains on each of like the square footage, like what the number is based on the exits, and then based on the number of folks, based on the number of water toilets that are available, and that's how he calculated that out. So
When in doubt, turn the page over.
yep, it's all there. Terry did a very good job. So
Yeah, that's a very thorough report. That's great.
I just want to say thank you to the owners for being so
Sure.
welcoming and letting us, understand more about their operations, and also taking some constructive feedback.
So Chief Werling, when you see that number 520 occupants, I'm sorry. Does that match up with your, does that give you any concern or you feel like we're,
I need to see 500 people in there. That seems like a lot, but I mean, if the calculation's on, then the calculation is on.
Yeah.
It baffled me that it got reduced by half because of the restroom facilities.
yeah,
Like that, this is not my world, so it's just really incredibly surprising, but
1,000 without that is a surprise
that,
number.
that I feel like would be way too many, but shows you how much I know about that world.
Yeah, okay. Great. Anything else,
That's all I have.
Dave? City Clerk, Geertz?
I had provided in your agenda packets, the correspondence from Father G.
Yes.
And he had provided, a nice report, thus far of what, the ministerial association's been able to accomplish.
That's
with
really neat to
the
see.
ARPA funds. And he had, provided that on social media as well, and Brittany shared that with our city page, so.
Thank you for putting that in here. That's really neat to see. 230 families, 859 people in those households being helped by those funds. So that's really excellent.
Then in addition to that information, we did, several of us attended the chamber annual event. And again, it was a really nice evening. It was really, good to get out and be able to be social, in that type of venue. But at the same time, it's always positive to hear good feedback from city operations and from, influential people in our community and getting that feedback. And I know one of them had shared their experience with city manager Haugland, Emily Geertz. She had shared, would you want to share that?
Yeah, we were just, Emily, Geertz and Frank Wagner had come in and we got to talking and Emily said, I don't really want to talk business, but I just want to tell you that. She goes, I came in to pay my bill, I pulled up and she goes, normally when I pull up, I just kind of cringe. But she said, I walked in, I was greeted. She said everything went amazing. She had nothing but positive comments for our 2 new staff members up front. And I shared that with Shari and with Lee and, told Shari that was a testament to the people that she chose to fill those roles and the training that she's done with those folks. So we had, because Emily was just, she said, I usually just cringe when I have to walk in there, but she goes, I had a very wonderful experience with the staff that you had in the front lines. So.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I guess the other thing that needs to be mentioned is we do have a award winner sitting at the table with all of you this evening because Cliff and Cara McFerren received one of the awards from the chamber. I believe it was the Selfless Servant Award.
Yeah.
For all the work that they've done in the community. So,
Sweet.
Well deserved.
yes, it was.
Thanks. Thanks.
Great.
That is
Thank
all
you.
I have, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Clerk Hoffert. And
They hit everything I have.
they hit everyone. Great.
Yeah, I can't, that's that Father Guillermo report, that's 859 people, it's nearly 25% of our population of our town. So that's pretty good.
And he did
You
do
say
this
it
work.
that
They did provide an Excel spreadsheet. Of course, I can't share that information in your packet. You're welcome to come in and take a look at the Excel spreadsheet if you'd like to. But he was very organized and provided a nice detailed report. So that'll be very, very helpful going forward with our reporting over to the federal government. So.
And I think a majority of those households, they were assisted with the city utility bills, and there were
6 of them. in
6 of them that I think were from Mid-America. So,
That's a real success story
yeah.
here and definitely thanks to the efforts of Father Guillermo and Ken Brooks, as well as the council members who were involved in helping to set that up, council members Smith and Dominguez. So. it's
And
really neat.
Escuchen Mi Voz also, they've been so willing to help with the farmers grant as well. So I know they've been able to cut like $600 checks to those that work in meat packing plants and work in farm fields. So
Yeah.
a lot of other families were able to benefit from that. And I know that those folks volunteer to be a part of that group and to help the community. So they're very valuable to our community.
Absolutely. Great. Okay, good news. Love it. We'll move on to old business, item number 8A. It's ordinance 2023-0103-01. It's the second reading to, and possibly considering waiving the third reading to amend the permitted uses for the agricultural district. If you remember, this is allowing dog kennels, animal hospital or kennel inside the agricultural district, something that the community needs, and as well as some instructions about the permitted signage there. So the way this works, if you're not familiar, and correct me if I say anything wrong about this, but I'll try to explain it. To change an ordinance like this, we need to read it 3 times and you have to vote on it 3 times as a council. If it's not a controversial issue, then you can waive the third reading if you want to. So this is the second reading. And so I'll entertain a motion to approve this ordinance, second reading.
Motion to approve this ordinance with the consideration to waive third reading.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to approve this ordinance, second reading and waive the third reading. Is there any discussion?
My only question is like, has anybody reached out with concern about like sound, like noise, like barking, like dogs barking?
That's a
Is-
good question.
Are there any neighbors that have said we're worried about this?
We had the public hearing
Yeah.
at planning and zoning. We had one individual that came. And their only concern was they needed part of the property was in an area that had flooded in the past.
Sure.
And their only concern was making sure that the facility was gonna be built so that it wouldn't flood and there was potential of having animals that
Yeah, you want to flood dogs.
flood dogs. So, but no, we've received no other comments other than that, and they were very supportive of the facility as well, and they live
And
within the.
also, I sent letters out further than the recommended amount, so I could reach all the way down that entire street just to make sure, and there was only one person
Yeah.
that showed up for it.
I think we're required to go 200 feet, and I think Shari went out like 500 feet. So she got a big crowd.
Okay.
Great. Any further discussion? If none, there is a move. Has been moved and seconded to approve this ordinance and waive the third reading. This is a roll call vote, and I'll start with you, Councilmember Schiltz,
Yes.
Councilmember Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilmember McFerren,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
The ordinance passes 4-0.
We'll let the owners know tomorrow that we have.
Absolutely. Item 8B is resolution 2023-0117-04. This is setting a date for a public hearing for the second part of the loan. That's needed for Max and Rainbow. This is the electric portion that's $350,000. So we need to also set a public hearing for that portion of the loan. Is there a motion to
Motion.
approve this resolution?
Motion to approve this resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve this resolution. Any discussion? Hearing none. This is again a roll call vote. I'm going to start with you, Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember McFerren.
Yes.
Councilmember Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Schiltz.
Yes.
The resolution carries 4-0. Item 9A, resolution 2023-0117-05. This is considering the approval for the purchase of a 2017 Polaris Ranger and Zima ATV trailer. It's capital equipment for the West Liberty Fire and EMS Department. Not to exceed the requested amount of $30,000. I'll accept a motion and a second to approve this, and then we'll have some discussion and invite Representative to speak.
Motion to approve. Resolution 20230111705.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve this resolution. And Brett Carlson, if we could invite you to come on up and kind of share your, I understand that you're here to talk us through this a little bit. Brett is a full-time paramedic, the lead paramedic with our EMS services.
So I'll answer any questions that you guys have regarding the Ranger, but basically the Ranger is a 2007. It's coming from Arizona. It's been kept indoors its entire life. It has 197 miles on it.
Wow.
So it's showroom condition. It will have a med bed on it, so it's, it'll be ready to roll, so patients that require rescue or moved from a confined area or an area like in the field rule, will be able to be put on a cot, and taken out, so that's, it's already outfitted with, a lot of things, we'll just have to do minor updates to it, for, us here, our fire chief and assistant fire chief aren't able to make it tonight due to previous obligations, but, this is something that, is saving us money, by doing it this way, rather than going out and buying new. And through, working with, Lee, she's made it very, simple and has, even streamlined the process even more for us to be able to doing this, so thank you, Lee. But yeah, this is what we have, so I'll answer any questions that you guys have that I'm able to.
And I just want to jump onto that conversation and, we did have an update, the Mindy Sickle Sturbins, the treasurer, for the association was able to reconcile the trust and agency and look at the donation closer. And, for the chief's approval, we updated the resolution to, transfer the remaining 25,000. So just to clarify, the association provided $5,000 as a down payment for the equipment. And so the remaining 25,000 has been requested to come from the trust and agency, because it was their understanding based on the numbers that they had calculated, it was like 23,000 and some change. So they were close enough and felt that those donations, the bequests, the memorials would be in support of purchasing the remaining 25,000 that come from that trusted agency. So that was updated within your resolution. And the only other thing I want to just take some time to explain is when we're looking at the resolution and it's communicating, there's a purchase that will be expensed from the general fund line item of the fire department and their capital equipment. And then the trust and agency, that special fund will then transfer the 25,000 back to the general fund. And when we say general fund, again, I want to be clear that the fire department, the ambulance, that is a part of public safety, which is in the general fund. So essentially, it is just a long way around the barn to get to the door to say the money going out will come right back.
Okay, thanks for that explanation.
And Brett, you might want to just mention on how you guys plan on doing that.
We have multiple members that have voiced interest in going down to retrieve it, so.
Okay.
So it looks like that cost will be covered by us.
Okay, fantastic. And it comes with its own trailer.
Comes with their own trailer, comes with the cot, the radio stuff will have to be exchanged out because their radio systems don't like our radio systems, but.
What a deal. Is that all the additional expense there'll be? It's just that radio?
So we have to put like a horn on it, like a little
Oh.
siren horn.
Oh.
Just because it doesn't have one, so that's way to get people to move, especially if they're not like there. And then we'll just have to make sure the lights meet the state of Iowa, law. Their Iowa requires certain lights to be in certain places, so like blue has to be on one side, red has to be on the other. So we'll just make sure that we're up to date with the Iowa code on that.
And it is, I mean, if you look at it, they have in your packet, you have the bill of sale that breaks it down. I mean, it is a wonderful find. Because it's not very often that you get the trailer and everything, and I mean, for that cost. And it sounds to me like the group out of Arizona has been, very helpful in working with our department here, so.
So this is it with a trailer?
Yeah.
They're on top of it? Oh,
So I believe.
I mean,
so
it's an addition, I mean.
This sits on top of the trailer, right?
So the Ranger couple could be delivered on the trailer, but everything, I believe the stretcher and everything comes with it.
Yeah. That's how it's explained in their bill of sale. So again, if they were to go out and purchase this brand new, they would have to purchase the trailer separate from
Okay,
the
yeah.
Ranger. It's not a package deal when you go. So that's what I'm saying.
It's a
It is
good deal.
That's very
It is a great opportunity and it's a really wise fiscal decision because they're able to get that trailer and that equipment. And I know they have been working for, I think in the action report, I may have said in a few years, but it's definitely been longer than that to find the right fit, so I commend them all for working hard on.
I bet the volunteers are happy they don't have to trudge through a field or a forest. Hopefully.
Don't say that, I'm not trying to say something tonight yet.
Jinxed it.
I think this definitely provides them, a more efficient opportunity, as I said, to get to areas. Or likewise, again, in parades and things like that, just being able to,
Get in and out.
yeah.
Absolutely.
It is a quad cab, so if we ever have to assist another agency, whether it be the police department, sheriff's department. Or anybody, whether they need to get somebody out of something, or just get people back to, someplace we can, it obviously can be used for that, so.
Right.
I'm excited.
It would be super handy for things like the fair and that sort of thing, because it's easier to get something like this in than an ambulance. I'm actually jealous of the purchase, so.
On your wish list then?
Absolutely. I made the cut, but it's like that would be super handy, so.
Sure.
We'll start looking.
Maybe, maybe the fire department needs to keep their good shopping habits and help you find one. This is a steal. Great. Yeah, it's, we'll look forward to seeing you in the parade, I think, right?
Yeah.
Great, excellent. Is there any other discussion? This purchase? Okay, hearing none, there is a motion and a second to approve this purchase resolution. It is a roll call vote. I'll start with you, Councilmember Schiltz,
Yes.
Councilmember Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilmember McFerren,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
The resolution passes 4-0. I do want to take a minute, since we're on the topic of the fire department. And just talk for just briefly for a moment about that. I've invested some time this past few months since I've gotten started, and especially here in last week. I met with the rural trustees, the representatives of the rural trustees, and last night I met with the entire fire department. And those were not easy conversations, but they were good conversations. And everyone was very respectful. There are a lot of emotions involved in these conversations, but everyone was respectful, and we, I think, came away with some fresh understanding from those. And I think that January is a great time to start fresh, if I could say it that way. January is a good time for new beginnings. And so I think we should do that as a community. I think we should all take it upon ourselves to start fresh wherever we can. And I think that involves taking responsibility for our part in whatever it may be in this whole multi-year turmoil. And also it means looking for the good in the other parties involved. So as I was meeting with these various entities, they relayed to me, Kurt Sickles last night relayed to me how happy he was about the process of this purchase, which I was really happy to hear. And thank you for saying that again tonight, Brett. I've been on these email conversations. Everyone has been really respectful and just, happily communicating and moving along through the process. And so it's just really good to see that. I think that I'd like to do two things. One is I would like to, as a representative of the city, I'd like to take responsibility for our part in this. And I think we need to make January the time that we move forward and not backward. So with that in mind, I want to officially, as a representative of the city of West Liberty, I want to apologize for the city administration and government's role in any of this, and for any things that were said or done that were hurtful or incorrect or non-transparent. And I think that as I say that, it's not just me as the mayor saying it, I'm echoing the words that I hear from other people at City Hall who have told me we take responsibility for our part of how this has unfolded. And so I think if each party who has played a role in this can take responsibility for our part, and then also look to find the good in the other people involved, we're off to a fresh start. And I know it's not easy, but as I get to know the people involved, I can see that we all do have a lot of deep respect for each other. We are all ultimately looking for the same goal, for the betterment of the community. And I know that the city government is committed to that. And so I would just call on all the parties who are involved in this entire situation to look for a fresh start and look for the good in everyone involved.
Thank you, Mayor.
With that said, we'll move on to item 9B. It's setting the date for a public hearing to consider amending the West Liberty electric utility rates. And the date is proposed for February 7th. That's our next regular council meeting at 7:30 p.m. I will note that meeting is scheduled to happen at the Wee Wee building. So just earmark that now so we don't all show up here.
Oh, is that because we think a lot of people will be there?
I think this room is booked.
This
room is booked.
Oh, okay, got it.
We have a steam event happening that we don't want to have to tear down and re-put.
And Ken was gracious enough to allow us to move our meeting there to the Wheeling building.
Excellent. I'll accept a motion to set this public hearing date.
Motion to set the public hearing date. Second.
Moved and seconded to set the date for the public hearing. Is this a consent vote or roll call vote?
It's a consent.
Okay, it is a consent vote. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The motion carries 4-0. Then we have setting a date for a city council work session on February 13th at 6 p.m. This is going to be at the West Liberty Community Center. It's going to be a joint meeting of the council and also the rural trustees, where the task force, particularly Eric and Mindy, the fire department representatives, can explain and go through the entire proposed new 28E agreement, which would be the setting up of a 28E agency. So it's important that we're all there to hear that and ask all of our questions. I'll accept a motion to set this date.
Motion to set the date.
Second.
Moved and seconded to set this work session date for February 13th. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The motion carries 4-0.
I would just note, I believe we're gonna hold that meeting at the community center, just to have you put that on your calendar as well, that we'll be having that there.
Great. We'll move on to reports. Dave, what do you have for us?
I don't have anything.
Anything?
So next one, I mean, I had kind of shared my December report with you verbally at the last meeting. I don't know if Leo has anything that he wants to add, and I know we've got some more department heads that all that have provided reports.
Do you have anything for us?
I do.
Foley?
So, things we've done in the last couple of weeks. The phase 1 of the city hall building is 1 year old, and Tara, our architect's coming over tomorrow to meet with Dave, and she's also got some renderings that they've been working on.
Excellent.
I asked him to work on some renderings kind of as just a start. So she has some of that she'll be showing tomorrow.
Actually, she shared those. I saw the picture today.
I did not look at it. I know she was gonna share them.
I asked some questions, but yeah.
Awesome. That's what I thought, the earlier you see them, the better. And those are just starts. That's just to get people's brains moving. And then, just again, with All American Concrete, we've sent the contracts, the bonds and insurance to them. Usually it takes them a couple of weeks to get them back to us. They haven't yet, but things are working well there. Well, number 2, Tara also is gonna be helping me with some floor plans, just to make sure we have an architect look at those floor plans. I've kind of sketched out some things, but before I share them back, I want her to put her blessing on some of that. And We also are looking at surveying the sidewalk. I was hoping to get that done in January, but it looks like February, but the sidewalk as well as the drainage. On a drainage study, you don't have to get topographic mapping because you can use what you've got. But we do want to get all of the intake shot, so we'll know exactly the elevations of the pipes coming in. That's all we got going.
I guess one thing that I would like to mention though is that I did speak with Jacob Bierman with BHMG today, just kind of getting an update on the electrical portion of the Rainbow and Max. And they should have final plans and specs out for Ed and I to review here in the next week. And they're hoping to have that going to bid either late January, early February for the electrical work on Rainbow and Max. So just wanted to pass that along to you.
Awesome, excellent. Department heads who want to share any updates or go through your reports.
So, I have Craig and then I have Danny and, for written reports, there's no written, but in addition to those written reports, you should have the library
I see that.
and then you should have did we get?
Ambulance, do we have as well?
Yep. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Craig's on, so.
I can update you on the mixer. We just got that in last week. We had to order some new clips because we tried to take them off the last mixer we had, and the cord to it wasn't big enough. So basically, this cord basically clips around the cord and cable, and then it is lowered into the pit. So I'm hoping to get that installed next week sometime. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to report this time.
Questions at all, for Mr. Juergens? What are you excited about happening down there these days? Any idea for improvements or things you'd like to see happen?
Well, starting in the spring, it'd be great to have a few things done. This mixer's going to be a great thing to actually get everything back and running where we should be. The other thing is we're having a few issues, I think, with the turkey plan as far as getting excess feathers and rags from them. So I'd like to get that kind of straightened out with them. So it's kind of an ongoing thing to discuss that with them. We need a heater installed up there at our monitoring pit up there at West Liberty Foods also, because we had an issue where it got really cold and basically frosted the old building inside, and all the paperwork and everything we had inside that building basically got condensation on it, and all their records that they had that we monitor, we write down their flows daily, all that basically got lost in that situation. So they do have a new heater, I think, ordered at the present time, and we're just waiting for that to get installed in that building. That's about all I've got.
Oh, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other department heads want to
Danny,
walk through your report with us? Mr. Goodell?
I don't really have anything to add to it. Everything's there. If if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I try to put pictures and descriptions in there so you can kind of understand what I'm saying. Yeah, don't have much to add to it.
The fire department relayed to me that it would be helpful for them if they knew the flow rate of the hydrants. I'm not entirely sure if I'm saying that correctly, but I asked for an email to me just to make sure I understood what they were talking about, and I'll pass that on to you if we could get that done.
Yeah, and actually last summer I bought equipment. The department purchased equipment to study the flow rates of all the fire hydrants, and a lot of cities have all this stuff in place where they paint them a certain color per flow rate.
Okay.
It's it's another process that we have to work on. We have We have GIS locating, we're looking on getting a valve exerciser. We should have that soon, so we can start that program. And that's just another program that needs to be put in place. But that's something that it's gonna take years to accomplish all those things. It's one of those things that hasn't been done over the years, and I hope to get that ship righted, so.
So it's a long process basically to go through the entire city.
Yeah, I mean, we have close to 200 hydrants, so flow testing all of them. I mean, you have to isolate valves, you have to isolate hydrants, you have to hook up equipment. So yeah, it is something that takes realistically years to do. But all that stuff's in process.
Okay, good to hear. Any other questions for our water superintendent? All right, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, lost my agenda.
Yeah, we have a great first. Oh, it was the best of all possible papers.
The best of all popular.
I know, possible.
Possible
Yeah, it
papers.
was in the woods.
It's a tongue twister.
It was the exterior hose bib to the front of the library. Regular things that first. Have some very cool pictures of our air filters that became like a crystal cavern in the air handlers. But it was remedied easily. We did have to close for the day due to temperatures because the HVAC had failed, which is why the pipers. We have our system set up so that it has an occupied and an unoccupied mode. The unoccupied mode can't always keep up with the cold temperatures outside. I'm not sure why. So I'm planning on talking with that company. They recently merged and are something else, but they used to be CI3. And so I'll be contacting CI3 to discuss with them what we can do to prevent that in future. Until then, we're just leaving the HVAC on all the time. Which is what Blaine, our HVAC repair guy, said a lot of other businesses and buildings do during cold winter months.
We are so fortunate to have a library director who has a master's in library sciences, correct?
Yes, yeah, they don't cover this.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Did they teach you when you were getting your master's
HVAC,
what
yeah.
an exterior hose bib is? So, more to learn.
Yes, always. Lifelong education.
Thanks for your detailed
Yeah,
report
if
as
there's
always.
any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. Sorry for the.
No problem. Okay, anything else from the city hall we need to talk about? Meetings, committee meetings?
We just mentioned that I was invited by the library today as their first celebrity reader for the first grade classes. We had all three first grade classes came in and there were a few,
All five.
well, there were five, five classes of first graders, along with, there were some younger kids that came to story time, so they had a really good book. It was written about COVID and how cities continue to operate. So it had a lot of great questions from those first graders, had a good, just had a good hour with them. Really enjoyed being a part of it, and I think Chief's on the docket for next month, so.
Okay.
That's so fun. Yeah, I believe Kelly went through at our city potluck and asked many people. So we've got lots of city department heads.
Yeah, I think Adam,
I believe Ethan
Danny,
Yes.
is signed up, Dan.
On the list.
Danny and Adam, I think. are the two.
That's good. Yeah, she was recruiting.
It was a lot of fun. Enjoyed it.
I saw your picture when you walked in.
Oh,
Your picture is on the board.
Are you kidding?
That's celebrity. Yeah.
Yeah, when she said
They did
celebrity, I
one
kind of
of those
wanted to chuckle a little bit. Yeah.
That's funny.
I know.
Love it. Okay, item C here is committee meetings, and I will ask Councilmember McFerren to share an update from the Fire EMS Task Force meeting last week.
Yeah, last Monday we met and it was kind of narrowing down from the fire perspective on what they included in the draft for the 20 agency and how they wanted to continue setting that up. So we do have a draft now that we can refer to. And my only I guess in addition to that is to make sure that we have the legal review it and make sure that it is going to work well.
Which our city attorney is looking at it now this week,
Yeah, it was sent to him last week. For
looking at feedback.
We're supposed to be having a conversation out there this week, you know.
Because one of the things that in which we had discussed earlier was to make sure we were on board with the work session. So we've got that arranged and ready to go for February. Where we all
And the
discuss.
fire task force does meet again next Monday on the 20th.
So 23rd.
So that'll be one more meeting of the task force, which hopefully can iron out some last minute details and the recommendations that would then be presented to the whole council and the rural trustees on February 13th. It's a work in progress. It's still going to be a work in progress. So I guess I would just encourage the council to make sure, ask all the questions. Even if they seem like dumb questions and just, try to get all the information you can. It's a working document that can be adjusted to be what you want it to be. So, good.
Yeah, I think there's still more information, we need to get, but we're getting there.
Definitely making good progress. Excellent. Okay. We'll move on to item 11A, entering into executive closed session per Iowa Code 21.5I.
Motion to enter into executive closed session. Second.
There's a motion and a second to enter into closed session. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Councilmember Schiltz,
Yes.
Councilmember Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilmember McFerren,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Okay, we will enter into closed session. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming. Good night.
I didn't really use it right now.
You'll be up all night. Now,
Do you want me to repeat?
No, you're good.
Is there any discussion? Okay, this will be a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember McFerren,
Yes.
Councilmember Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Schiltz.
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0, and we are returned to open session. We'll look at 11C. We need a motion
I
to,
I motion to file extension with auditor state fiscal year 21-22.
Me too. Oh, no, actually, you can have it.
Where's ready? Oh, no.
I've been up since 4:30.
There's a motion and a second to direct the city clerk to file an extension with the auditor of state. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 4-0. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moving and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Got it. Sorry. Here.
Thanks, everybody.